This video is from 2038, her last known public appearance. She was only 32 and already a billionaire a dozen times over.
On the vast and empty stage, Yana Rafikoff looked like a person dropped from a height, broken on the way down, dumped in the spotlights accidentally. Her legs were as stickly thin as a dime baby's, her spine so twisted that her head nestled flush with her shoulder. She had to gravel her words through a voice box, and before the translation kicked in, all I could make out was a slur. But then, a split second later, the reconfiguration of her voice boomed out through Burnham's office from 360-degree hidden speakers. I jumped. "We are all slaves," she said, and an invisible crowd roared its approval. The hair on my arms lifted. "We are shackled to bodies that betray us. I ask for nothing more and nothing less than freedom." The crowd was deafening. They chanted her name, stamped their feet, seemed to grow in waves of sound from the shadows and pour from all the corners of Burnham's office. Abruptly, the video cut out, and the view of Crunch 407, the real view this time, resurfaced. In the short time I'd been in one central, a dust storm had blown in to speckle the window panes with residue.
"We lost track of her in the decades after dissolution,"
Burnham said, wheeling a little closer again. I couldn't help but wonder what had dropped him in the chair to begin with, how long the Federal Corporation had been beaming out his body in holographic form.
"We assumed she was dead. The fighting at the front of what became the Russian Federation was especially bloody, and she was on half a dozen hit lists because of direct ties to the Kremlin. We assumed the original think chip technology had died with her and pirated our own, although it took us another decade. Rafikoff may be a genius, but she skipped several important lessons as a child. One of them, the importance of sharing. Everything she has ever made or developed is strictly guarded against replication or piracy. In fact, even before she made waves with the think chip, she was famous for inventing a self-cannibalizing code designed to self-destruct if attacked, penetrated, modified, or even copied by outside servers."
"Smart," I said.
"Unfortunate,"
he corrected me sharply.
"A few years ago, our Consumer Affairs Division—"
He lingered briefly on the words, like I might not otherwise figure that CAD was the Federal Corporation's intelligence branch.
"picked up rumors of an experimental software, very illegal, coming out of the Russian Federation, that allowed a brain to communicate not just with smart objects, but with other brains directly."
Even though I knew that One Central was shrink-wrapped in hazmat to keep out even a whiff of natural environment, I felt as if the dust storm was blowing straight into my brain. I couldn't think straight. Isn't that a good thing?
"In theory, maybe. But in practice, all the information must pass through a central server to be translated and redistributed. That means that it can be collected, trapped, or even rerouted."
Now Burnham's twitch had spread all the way to his face and pulled his mouth into a series of grimaces.
"Even then, we weren't too worried, until we found out how the tech was loading to the brain. You see, Truckee, the same protections that made think chips so difficult to pirate were also a limitation. They were immensely complex, and thus immensely expensive and difficult to produce en masse. But Rafikoff herself must have realized this and found a way around it."
I was genuinely curious. "How?"
"Synthetic viruses," he said matter-of-factly. "Deliverable in the form of a single pill. The virus implants in the brain, replicates along sites of neural activity, and communicates the activity back to the server."
The idea was crazy and pretty damn genius. So Rafikoff is floating different brains back and forth across the feeds? And all you have to do to join is take a pill? I could tell she was supposed to be some kind of public enemy, but all I was thinking was how to hunt down a dose from the local grifters next time they passed through town. President Burnham looked like he knew exactly what I was thinking and wasn't happy about it.
"Correction. She was floating brains back and forth across the portal, and all you had to do to join was take a pill. But you see, even that has a limitation. It's